One food in your fridge could be quietly poisoning you after 60. Would you know which one it is? Most people think food safety is about checking expiration dates or tossing out old leftovers. But what if I told you some of the most common, healthy foods in your fridge are silently losing nutrients? Or worse, creating harmful compounds? As a nutrition expert working with older adults, I've seen how these everyday mistakes lead to bloating, fatigue, inflammation, even toxin buildup. And most of it starts in one place, the refrigerator. According to the CDC, foodborne illness affects nearly 48 million Americans each year, and seniors are among the most vulnerable. That's why in today's video, I'll reveal 6 foods you should never refrigerate after 60, explain the science behind it, and show you how to store them the right way. One of these could even carry a risk of serious food poisoning, and you might be eating it every week. Stick around to the end. You'll walk away with practical tips that can protect your digestion, brain, and long-term health. And if you're ready to take control of your kitchen and your health, be sure to subscribe now. First mistake, storing potatoes cold when cold turns toxic. Let's begin with a kitchen classic, potatoes. Comforting, affordable, and found in nearly every home. But did you know that refrigerating raw potatoes can quietly turn them from healthy to harmful? Here's what happens. When stored in cold temperatures, the natural starch in potatoes begins converting into sugar. Later, if you bake or fry those sugar-loaded potatoes, especially at high heat, a chemical called acrylamide forms. Studies show that acrylamide has been linked to cancer in animals and may pose a risk to humans, particularly seniors with weakened immune systems. But it's not just about chemicals. Cold temperatures also ruin the texture. Ever noticed your potatoes turning oddly sweet, mushy, or even grey after cooking? That's the cold breaking them down from the inside out. I once had a patient in her 70s who kept her potatoes in the fridge for years, thinking it preserved freshness. She had no idea why her roasted dinners suddenly tasted off or upset her stomach. The fix was simple, and it made a big difference. So what's the better way? Store your potatoes in a dark, dry place with airflow, like a pantry, cupboard, or mesh bag. Avoid plastic, use wood or paper if you can, and keep them away from onions, which release gases that speed up spoilage. Just one small change, and you preserve not only the flavor, but also your long-term health. Next up, let's look at a food that seems harmless, but might be ruining your sandwiches faster than you think. 2. Bread. Why cold bread turns risky. Bread is a comfort food for many older adults. It's quick, soft, and turns a simple meal into something satisfying. So it makes sense to want to keep it fresh, and many think storing it in the fridge is the smart move. But here's what most people don't realize. Cold temperatures don't preserve bread. They actually make it go stale faster. It's due to a process called retrogradation. That's when starch molecules begin to recrystallize in the cold, causing the bread to dry out and harden. Your soft sandwich bread becomes crumbly, even rubbery, often within just a day or two. Not exactly the texture you had in mind for toast or a PB&J. Now here's where it gets more serious. When bread comes out of the fridge and hits warm kitchen air, moisture forms inside the bag. That creates the perfect conditions for mold, especially dangerous for seniors with respiratory issues or lowered immunity. I remember a 68-year-old gentleman who loved his morning toast but kept it in the fridge to be safe. Within a week, mold was growing in the corners of the loaf, even though it looked fine on the outside. It led to weeks of digestive discomfort, all from trying to do the right thing. So what should you do instead? If you eat bread within a few days, keep it sealed at room temperature in a bread box or cupboard. Want it to last longer? Slice it, freeze it, and only thaw what you need. And if you see mold in even a small spot, toss the whole loaf. Mold spreads invisibly, and it's not worth the risk. Now let's turn to a tiny but powerful ingredient, one that many people store wrong without realizing the hidden problems it causes. Let's talk about onions. 3. Onions. The mold magnet. Onions might be small, but they're essential in nearly every kitchen. From soups to salads, they bring flavor, depth, and warmth to meals. But storing them in the refrigerator? That's a mistake more dangerous than it seems, especially as we age. Whole onions have a natural outer skin that protects them from moisture and bacteria. But inside the fridge, that barrier breaks down. The cold, humid environment softens the layers, drawing moisture inward. Before long, you may notice dark spots, mushy texture, or worse, mold. I once met a retired couple who stored their onions in the crisper drawer for extra freshness. They didn't realize that every week they were tossing half their onions because of rot. It wasn't bad produce, it was bad storage. There's another issue too. Onions are highly aromatic. In a closed, cold space, they release sulfur compounds that sneak into nearby foods. That's why your butter might taste a little oniony. And when you slice an onion and leave it in the fridge without proper sealing, you're creating a breeding ground for bacteria, not some magical detox sponge like old myths suggest. So what's the right move? Keep whole onions in a cool, dry place, like a pantry with airflow. Never in plastic bags. Use a paper bag or mesh sack instead. And once you cut them, wrap tightly and use within 2 days. A bit of paper towel inside the container can help absorb moisture and keep them safer. Small changes like this protect not just the onion, but your gut, your immune system, and your sense of taste. Next, let's talk about a juicy favorite that loses both flavor and nutrition when stored cold. Yes, we're looking at tomatoes when they really don't belong in the fridge. 4. Tomatoes. From flavorful to flat tomatoes are the heart of so many meals. Fresh salads, pasta sauces, warm soups. They bring brightness, taste, and nutrition. But when you store them in the fridge, you take away everything that makes them special. Why? Tomatoes are tropical fruits. They thrive in warmth, not cold. When chilled, the enzymes that give tomatoes their signature flavor and juicy texture begin to break down. What you're left with is a tomato that's mealy, bland, and watery. Many seniors tell me my tomatoes just don't taste like they used to. And I ask, are they coming out of the fridge? That's usually the answer. But there's more. Cold storage also reduces vitamin C, one of the key nutrients in tomatoes. And for older adults, vitamin C supports immunity, wound healing, and even iron absorption. Losing it just because of poor storage? That's a shame. I remember a 74-year-old woman who loved her daily tomato sandwich, but she kept her tomatoes in the fridge and they always came out pale and mushy. She thought they were low quality until we changed how she stored them. A week later, she called to say, "It tastes like summer again." So here's what you can do. Store tomatoes at room temperature, stem side down, in a bowl or basket away from direct sunlight. Let them ripen naturally. And if they get a little too soft, don't toss them. Use them in soups or sauces. You'll save flavor, money, and nutrition. Now let's shift from juicy to pungent and talk about a superfood that turns risky when chilled. Yes, we're talking about garlic. 5. Garlic. Superfood. Turned risky garlic has been used for centuries, not just for flavor, but for healing. It's packed with allicin, a compound known to help lower blood pressure, reduce inflammation, and support the immune system. But here's what many people get wrong. Storing garlic in the fridge can quietly destroy its power. Whole garlic bulbs are meant to stay in a dry, well-ventilated space. When placed in the fridge, they start to sprout. That green core inside? It's bitter, rubbery, and a sign your garlic is losing its strength. Worse yet, storing chopped garlic in oil, especially inside the fridge, can create the perfect condition for botulism, a rare but serious illness. I've had older patients who pre-mixed garlic and oil for cooking convenience, not realizing they were putting themselves at real risk. Even the FDA has warned against this practice. Botulism can cause nausea, muscle weakness, and in severe cases, paralysis. For someone over 60 with slower digestion or chronic illness, even small bacteria exposures can be dangerous. So how should you store garlic safely? Keep whole bulbs in a paper bag, mesh sack, or open basket at room temperature, away from direct sunlight and moisture. If you must store chopped garlic, mix it with vinegar or lemon juice instead of oil. The acidity helps prevent bacterial growth. Even better, chop it fresh when you need it. It only takes a minute and keeps all its health benefits intact. Garlic should help you heal, not make you sick. Now let's switch gears to something most of us enjoy every morning, but your fridge might be ruining it without you even realizing it. Coffee. 6. Coffee. Why your brew tastes off. For many older adults, coffee isn't just a drink, it's a ritual, a quiet moment of peace in the morning. But if your daily cup has started tasting bitter, flat, or oddly flavored, the fridge might be to blame. Coffee, whether whole beans or ground, is what we call hygroscopic. That means it absorbs moisture and odors from the air. And refrigerators are full of both. Each time you open the fridge door, temperature changes create condensation. Moisture sneaks into your coffee container. That can lead to clumping, stale taste, and even mold, especially if your jar isn't airtight. I once spoke with a retired teacher who stored her ground coffee in the fridge to keep it fresh. She noticed her brew started tasting strange. Turns out her coffee had picked up the scent of onions and the bitterness of spoiled air. She switched to a dry, sealed jar in the pantry, and just like that, her mornings were better again. But it's not just flavor you're losing. Coffee contains chlorogenic acids, antioxidants that support heart and brain health. These compounds break down faster when exposed to moisture and light, so refrigeration doesn't preserve coffee, it quietly takes away its health benefits. What's the right way? Keep your coffee in an opaque, airtight container. Store it in a cool, dark place away from heat, not near the stove, not in the fridge, and only grind what you need. Freshness makes all the difference. Your morning coffee should comfort you and carry the smell of last night's dinner. Up next, let's talk about one of nature's most trusted remedies, honey. It never spoils on its own until we put it in the fridge. 7. Honey, nature's preserver, misunderstood. Honey is one of nature's oldest remedies. For centuries, it's been used to soothe sore throats, aid digestion, and even help wounds heal. And here's the amazing part. Pure honey doesn't spoil unless we interfere with it. Many people, especially seniors trying to keep things extra safe, store honey in the fridge. But that's actually what causes it to go bad faster. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize. What was once smooth and golden becomes gritty, thick, and hard to scoop. It's not dangerous at first, but it opens the door to bigger problems. Each time you open that cold jar, warm air brings in moisture. And moisture is honey's worst enemy. It disrupts the natural balance that keeps bacteria out. Over time, your honey may ferment. Sour taste, bubbly texture, even a faint smell of alcohol. One of my patients, a 70-year-old beekeeper, believe it or not, called me confused. He'd refrigerated his own honey to protect it, only to find it bubbling and sour weeks later. He was shocked. Nature made honey shelf-stable. The fridge broke it. So what's the better way? Store honey in a sealed glass jar at room temperature, away from heat and direct sunlight. If your honey has crystallized, place the jar in a bowl of warm, not boiling water to gently melt it back. You don't need fancy preservatives. Honey is the preservative, as long as you let it be. Let's keep going with another tropical favorite that suffers in the cold. It's soft, it's sweet, and your fridge is likely ruining it. Bananas. 8. Bananas. The tropical fruit that hates the cold. Bananas are a go-to fruit for many older adults. They're soft, easy to digest, and full of potassium. Great for heart health and muscle support. But if you've been keeping bananas in the fridge, you might be sabotaging their benefits without realizing it. Bananas are tropical by nature. They ripen best in warm environments. When placed in the fridge, especially before they're ripe, the cold shuts down the enzymes that convert starch into sugar. That means the ripening process simply stops. The result? Dark, grayish skins, patchy, mushy spots, and a strange, metallic aftertaste that tells you something's gone wrong. I once had an 82-year-old woman tell me she thought her bananas were going bad too quickly. Turns out she was refrigerating them the moment she got home. After changing how she stored them, just a simple fruit bowl on the counter, her bananas stayed fresher and tasted sweeter. And her morning smoothie got its flavor back. But it's not just about taste or texture. Cold temperatures can reduce the antioxidants in bananas, including dopamine and catechins, both of which play a role in reducing inflammation and supporting brain health. And that matters more as we age. So what should you do instead? Keep bananas at room temperature, ideally hanging or resting in a fruit bowl with airflow. If they're ripening too fast, separate them or place them away from other fruits. And if they get too ripe, peel and freeze them. They're perfect for smoothies or homemade banana bread later. Let bananas do what they're meant to do. Ripen gently, nourish fully. Now let's talk about something many of us use daily in cooking. And think we're protecting by keeping it cold, but for olive oil, refrigeration can quietly undo its benefits. 9. Olive oil. When healthy turns harmful. Olive oil is often called liquid gold, and for good reason. It's rich in healthy fats, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds. A key part of the Mediterranean diet, it supports heart health, brain function, and joint mobility. That's why many seniors use it every day for cooking, dipping, or drizzling over meals. But here's a common mistake I see too often: storing olive oil in the fridge. At first, you'll notice it turns cloudy and thick. That might seem harmless, just a cosmetic change. But there's more happening behind the scenes. Each time you move the bottle in and out of the cold, the oil experiences temperature stress. That leads to oxidation, a chemical reaction that breaks down good fats and creates unstable compounds called free radicals. And free radicals, they're linked to aging, inflammation, and chronic disease. One of my clients, a 75-year-old man managing arthritis, thought refrigerating his organic olive oil would extend its shelf life. Instead, he was unknowingly weakening the anti-inflammatory properties he relied on. Once he moved it to a dark cabinet away from the stove, the difference in taste and joint comfort was noticeable. Refrigeration also dulls the flavor. That rich, peppery finish that makes olive oil so enjoyable, it disappears. The oil becomes flat, waxy, and harder to pour. So here's the better way. Store olive oil in a dark glass or metal container. Keep it in a cool, dry cupboard, never next to the oven or window. With proper storage, high-quality olive oil can last up to 18 to 24 months without losing its benefits. Treat it like your own health, protect it from stress, heat, and exposure, and it will stay strong. Now that we've covered the 9 foods, let's bring it all together. Here's how to reorganize your kitchen to support your health. starting today. How to reorganize your kitchen, starting today. You don't need a fancy kitchen or expensive gadgets to protect your health. Just a few smart changes in how you store food can make a real difference, especially after 60. Let's start simple. Group your foods by type. Keep tropical fruits like bananas and avocados on the counter, never in the fridge. Store root vegetables like potatoes and onions in a cool, dark drawer, with airflow, not plastic. Keep olive oil away from light and heat. Move honey out of the refrigerator and into a dry cupboard. Label your shelves if needed. Make the healthy habits easy to follow, not something you have to remember every time. Use the right containers. Glass jars with tight lids for coffee, grains, or chopped garlic, if needed. Paper bags or mesh sacks for garlic and onions. Avoid plastic whenever possible. It traps moisture and odors. And keep things visible. We eat what we see, so place your fresh produce front and center. Tuck away items that don't need chilling. Let your kitchen support your health, not work against it. I once helped an 80-year-old widow reorganize her small kitchen. She said, "I thought it was just clutter, but now I realize I was storing danger right in front of me." That one afternoon changed how she shopped, ate, and felt every day. You can do the same, one shelf at a time. Now let's take a moment to recap everything we've learned and what you can do starting today. Small storage habits can quietly shape your health, for better or worse. Today, you've learned which 9 foods lose their power, flavor, or safety when refrigerated, and more importantly, how simple changes can protect your digestion, brain, and heart after 60. So now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Leave a comment. Your tip could help another senior watching today. And if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone you care about. Together, we can make these golden years the healthiest yet.